Who was Marcus Aurelius? Marcus Aurelius, 121 to 180 CE, was a Roman emperor from 161 to 180 CE, and he is often considered one of the last of the five good emperors of Rome. Beyond his political and military accomplishments, he is most famous for his philosophical writings, particularly his Meditations, which continue to be a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy today. His reign and his legacy were marked by his commitment to virtue, self-discipline, and the welfare of the Roman Empire, despite the turbulent challenges he faced during his time. Early life and rise to power. Marcus Aurelius was born on April 26, 121 CE, in Rome, into a prominent family with a strong political background. His full name was Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, and he belonged to the Nerva-Antonine dynasty, which had come to power through the adoption of able and virtuous individuals, rather than through bloodlines alone. This practice of adopting capable men to serve as emperors helped ensure the stability and prosperity of the empire. His early life was marked by tragedy and the loss of his father when Marcus was only 3 years old. Raised by his grandfather and mother, Marcus was given an excellent education, which was steeped in philosophy, rhetoric, and law. Early on, he developed an interest in Stoic philosophy, and his tutors included prominent Stoic philosophers such as Junius Rusticus, who would have a significant influence on his intellectual development. Marcus Aurelius' path to the throne was not a direct one. His adoption by Emperor Hadrian, and later by Antoninus Pius, positioned him as heir to the throne. In 161 CE, when Antoninus Pius died, Marcus became emperor, initially ruling alongside his adoptive brother Lucius Verus. Upon Verus' death in 169 CE, Marcus Aurelius became the sole ruler of the Roman Empire. Reign and challenges ***. Marcus Aurelius' reign was far from peaceful. His time as emperor was defined by numerous military campaigns, particularly along the northern borders of the empire, where he faced various Germanic tribes, most notably the Marcomanni, Quadi, and other groups. These wars, which would come to be known as the Marcomannic Wars 166 to 180 CE, were a major part of his reign and took a significant toll on the empire. The conflict was compounded by outbreaks of plague, which decimated the population and further strained the empire's resources. Despite these difficulties, Marcus Aurelius was regarded as a capable and just ruler. He took the time to manage the empire's affairs, ensuring that the Roman legal system was fair and that the welfare of his people was prioritized. He also attempted to secure the future of the empire by ensuring that his son, Commodus, would inherit the throne. Unfortunately, Commodus would later prove to be an ineffective and tyrannical ruler, leading to a decline in the empire's stability after Marcus Aurelius' death. Stoic philosophy and the Meditations. While Marcus Aurelius was a leader during times of war and crisis, his most enduring legacy lies in his philosophical work, Meditations. The Meditations is a series of personal writings, reflections, and aphorisms that Marcus wrote primarily in Greek, intended for his own self-improvement. These writings were not meant for publication, but rather as a guide for his own conduct and thoughts. They offer a rare, intimate glimpse into the mind of an emperor who was deeply committed to Stoic principles. Stoicism, as taught by philosophers like Epictetus and Seneca, emphasizes the importance of virtue, reason, and self-control. It focuses on the development of an inner calm, or ataraxia, which comes from aligning oneself with nature and focusing only on what is within one's control. Marcus Aurelius, as both a ruler and a student of Stoicism, applied these teachings to navigate the tumultuous challenges of his reign. Some key Stoic principles that can be found throughout the Meditations include 1. The dichotomy of control. A central Stoic idea is the distinction between what is within our control and what is not. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that his duty was to focus on his own actions and responses, while accepting that many external circumstances were beyond his influence. 2. Virtue as the highest good. For Marcus Aurelius, as for other Stoics, the only true good was virtue. In his Meditations, he often reflected on the importance of wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance as essential components of a good life, and he sought to embody these virtues in his actions as emperor. 3. Impermanence and the transience of life. Throughout his writings, Marcus Aurelius meditated on the fleeting nature of life and the inevitability of death. He often reminded himself that nothing lasts forever, and thus he strived to live with purpose, focusing on the present moment and doing what was right, regardless of future outcomes. 4. Acceptance of fate. Another important Stoic concept in the Meditations is the acceptance of fate. Marcus Aurelius believed that one should not resist the natural course of events, but should accept what life presents and find meaning and growth in adversity. His practice of amor fati, or love of fate, is reflected throughout his reflections on the challenges of his reign. An example of Marcus Aurelius' Stoic wisdom is found in his reflections on personal challenges. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This famous quote encapsulates the Stoic idea that our responses to events, not the events themselves, determine our inner peace. By controlling our reactions and judgments, we maintain our self-respect and resilience, no matter the difficulties we face. Legacy and death. Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome until his death in 180 CE. After his passing, the Roman Empire entered a period of decline that was, in part, due to the ineffective leadership of his son Commodus, who became emperor after him. Despite the challenges his son would face in maintaining the empire, Marcus Aurelius' legacy endured through his philosophical writings and his reputation as a just and virtuous ruler. The Meditations have been studied and admired for centuries, especially in modern times, as a guide to living a life of inner peace and virtue. Marcus Aurelius' ability to maintain his Stoic principles while ruling an empire in the midst of war, plague, and political instability has made him a model of leadership and personal discipline. His work continues to resonate with those seeking a more grounded and meaningful approach to life, making him one of the most enduring figures in philosophy and history. Marcus Aurelius in modern times. In the modern world, Marcus Aurelius is celebrated not only as an emperor, but as a philosophical guide. His Meditations offer timeless wisdom that transcends the particularities of Roman politics or warfare. They serve as a reminder that regardless of the external pressures one faces, whether in leadership, personal life, or even in times of crisis, one can maintain control over one's mind, uphold moral integrity, and live with dignity. Many modern readers, from business leaders to everyday individuals, turn to Marcus Aurelius' writings to find inspiration for how to deal with stress, adversity, and self-doubt. His approach to life, emphasizing the importance of reason, self-reflection, and virtue. Marcus Aurelius, his achievements. Marcus Aurelius is remembered not only as a philosopher, but also as one of the most capable and admired emperors of ancient Rome. His reign, spanning from 161 to 180 CE, was marked by several significant achievements, both in his political and military leadership and his philosophical contributions. His accomplishments contributed to the stability of the Roman Empire, his reputation as a just ruler, and his lasting impact on Stoic philosophy. 1. Military leadership and the Marcomannic Wars. One of Marcus Aurelius' most significant achievements was his military leadership, particularly during the Marcomannic Wars, 166 to 180 CE. These wars were fought along the northern borders of the Roman Empire, primarily against the Germanic tribes, such as the Marcomanni, Quadi, and others. The conflict was sparked by invasions and raids on Roman territories by these tribes, which threatened the stability of the empire. Leadership during conflict. Despite being primarily a philosopher, Marcus Aurelius demonstrated considerable military skill and resilience as he personally led the Roman armies in these campaigns. The wars lasted for over a decade and were critical in ensuring the empire's territorial integrity. Marcus Aurelius' hands-on involvement in the conflict, as well as his ability to lead under difficult circumstances, earned him respect both as a general and as an emperor. Victory and defense. While the wars were grueling and costly, Marcus Aurelius' leadership was integral to Rome's ultimate success. His determination to protect the empire's borders and his commitment to the defense of Roman citizens were key elements in sustaining Roman power during this tumultuous period. Humanitarian approach to soldiers. Despite the ongoing wars, Marcus Aurelius displayed a more compassionate side to his leadership. He ensured that the soldiers were treated with respect, recognizing their hardships and offering them care and support during the long campaigns. 2. Contributions to Roman law and governance. Marcus Aurelius' reign was also marked by several contributions to Roman law, administration, and governance. He was known for his fairness, dedication to justice, and desire to promote the welfare of the people. Promotion of justice. Marcus Aurelius worked diligently to ensure that justice was applied equally throughout the empire. He was deeply concerned with the moral integrity of his rule and the legal system, often intervening personally in cases that involve significant moral questions or injustices. His commitment to fairness is evident in his personal belief that rulers should be as devoted to justice as their subjects are to obeying the law. Improving Roman law. Marcus Aurelius, along with his co-emperor Lucius Verus, worked on refining and codifying laws to improve the administration of justice in the empire. His reign saw an emphasis on the welfare of the Roman citizen and a focus on administrative reforms that would improve efficiency and fairness in Roman legal processes. Handling of the empire's finances. In addition to military and legal reforms, Marcus Aurelius also focused on the economic stability of the empire. He managed the empire's finances with prudence, ensuring that the Roman military remained well-funded despite the ongoing wars. While the empire faced challenges like famine, disease, and high military costs, Marcus Aurelius worked to maintain stability without overly taxing the population. 3. His philosophical writings, meditations. Perhaps the most enduring achievement of Marcus Aurelius is his work as a Stoic philosopher. His personal journal, later known as the Meditations, has become a seminal text in Stoic philosophy and a lasting legacy of his reign. The Meditations were not intended for publication. They were a series of private reflections that Marcus wrote to guide himself in living a virtuous life. Stoicism in practice. As a practitioner of Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the importance of virtue, self-discipline, and acceptance of the natural course of life. He meditated on how to live in accordance with nature, how to confront challenges with equanimity, and how to respond to the trials of life without losing one's moral compass. His meditations emphasize the importance of wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation, core values of Stoicism. Personal development and leadership. Through his writings, Marcus Aurelius showed that his philosophical beliefs were not abstract ideas, but practical principles that he applied in his daily life and rule as emperor. His ability to remain true to these Stoic values during difficult times, such as during the wars on Rome's northern frontiers or the devastating plagues, demonstrated the strength and resilience of Stoic thought. Timeless wisdom. The Meditations continue to be widely read and appreciated today, particularly for their teachings on resilience, mindfulness, and personal growth. Marcus' reflections on the importance of focusing on what is within one's control, maintaining inner peace in the face of adversity, and living a life of integrity have influenced not just philosophers but also leaders, athletes, and anyone seeking wisdom on how to live a virtuous and meaningful life. 4. His commitment to moral integrity and the welfare of the people. One of Marcus Aurelius' defining achievements was his commitment to moral integrity and the welfare of the people of Rome. Unlike some emperors who were primarily focused on their own power or luxury, Marcus Aurelius consistently put the well-being of the empire first. Governance with virtue. As a Stoic, Marcus Aurelius believed that rulers should be morally upright and should govern for the good of their people, not for personal gain. His emphasis on justice, self-control, and humility set him apart from many of his contemporaries. His rule was characterized by a deep sense of responsibility, as he saw himself as a servant of the people, entrusted with the care of the empire. Empathy for the poor. While the empire faced many challenges, including famines, disease, and economic instability, Marcus Aurelius showed empathy and compassion for the struggles of the poor and marginalized. He sought to ensure that resources were fairly distributed and that the most vulnerable in society were not neglected. 5. Peaceful transition of power. Marcus Aurelius ensured a peaceful transition of power during his reign, despite the challenges he faced. While his son Commodus eventually succeeded him, Marcus Aurelius made efforts to prepare his son for the responsibilities of leadership, although Commodus would later prove to be a less capable ruler. Teaching his heir, Marcus Aurelius wrote letters and reflections in an attempt to guide Commodus in becoming a virtuous and capable ruler. Unfortunately, Commodus' reign was marked by cruelty and mismanagement, but Marcus Aurelius' effort to raise his son with the values he held dear is a testament to his belief in the importance of wisdom and leadership. Legacy of stable governance. Despite the issues surrounding Commodus' reign, Marcus Aurelius' rule is often viewed as a model of wise governance, marked by a focus on justice, military defense, and moral integrity. His reign ensured that Rome remained relatively stable during a period of great external and internal challenges. 6. Preservation of the Roman Empire's borders. Marcus Aurelius faced a series of military crises during his reign, and despite these challenges, he was able to protect and preserve the empire's borders from external threats. Successful defense of the empire. As the empire's borders were under constant pressure from barbarian tribes, such as the Marcomanni, Quadi, and Sarmatians, Marcus Aurelius demonstrated remarkable military leadership. He personally led the army in battle and ensured that Rome's eastern and northern frontiers remained secure. The defensive victories secured the empire's borders, allowing Rome to maintain control over vital territories in Europe and Asia. Strategic use of diplomacy and military alliances. While Marcus Aurelius was heavily involved in military campaigns, he also used diplomacy to prevent further instability. He forged military alliances with some of the tribes along the borders, and his efforts to keep Rome's allies in line were key to Rome's long-term security. These diplomatic efforts helped to stabilize the empire during a period of political fragmentation in neighboring regions. 7. A role model of resilience during the Antonine Plague. One of the most significant challenges faced by Marcus Aurelius during his reign was the Antonine Plague, 165 to 180 CE, which devastated the empire. It is estimated that the plague may have caused the deaths of as many as 5 million people, and it severely impacted the Roman economy and military. Leadership in the face of crisis. Despite the overwhelming death toll and the enormous strain it placed on the empire, Marcus Aurelius demonstrated remarkable resilience and leadership. He continued to lead the empire in both military and administrative matters during the plague, ensuring that the government remained stable and that the empire continued to function despite the crisis. Public health and social welfare efforts. Marcus Aurelius took measures to alleviate the suffering caused by the plague. He directed efforts to care for the sick and help those in need. His leadership during this health crisis showed his deep sense of responsibility and concern for the Roman citizens, despite the fact that he himself was also affected by the disease. 8. Reforms to the Roman army. While Marcus Aurelius is best known for his military campaigns, he also instituted several reforms within the Roman army that helped improve its effectiveness and preparedness for future challenges. Improved training and discipline. Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of training and discipline in the army. He was deeply involved in overseeing military strategies and ensuring that soldiers were properly prepared for battle, including improvements in their physical and mental conditioning. His focus on these areas helped the Roman army remain formidable despite the ongoing pressures of the Marcomannic Wars and other challenges. Increased pay and benefits for soldiers. Marcus Aurelius recognized the importance of maintaining the loyalty and morale of his troops. As such, he worked to increase pay and provide better benefits for soldiers, improving their conditions and ensuring that they were motivated to continue fighting for the empire. This strengthened the bond between the military and the emperor, ensuring the army's continued loyalty and support during times of conflict. 9. Strengthening Rome's legal system. Marcus Aurelius' reign saw significant improvements to the Roman legal system, with an emphasis on fairness and efficiency. Legal reforms. Marcus Aurelius worked to refine and improve Roman law, with a particular focus on ensuring fairness for all citizens, including slaves and non-Roman subjects. He sought to eliminate corruption within the legal system, emphasizing the importance of justice for all people, regardless of their social standing. Abolition of some harsh legal practices. Under Marcus Aurelius, there was an emphasis on reducing the severity of certain legal punishments and ensuring that the law was more humane. For example, he is credited with making the legal process more transparent and with promoting measures to protect the rights of the accused in court. 10. The development of his personal character as a model of Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius is widely recognized as a philosophical ruler who embodied the Stoic ideals of reason, virtue, and personal integrity. Commitment to virtue. Marcus Aurelius practiced what he preached. His commitment to Stoicism extended beyond philosophical study. He tried to live his life according to its principles. His daily meditations focused on cultivating virtues like wisdom, self-control, humility, and fairness. His personal life was marked by simplicity, and he made efforts to be just and moral in every decision he made as emperor. Inner peace in the midst of adversity. One of Marcus Aurelius' most enduring qualities was his ability to maintain inner peace during times of external chaos. He is known for his resilience and calm demeanor, even when the empire faced war, disease, and political unrest. His philosophical writings, particularly the Meditations, emphasize the importance of remaining focused on what is within one's control and accepting the inevitable challenges of life with equanimity. 11. Support for public works and infrastructure. Although Marcus Aurelius is primarily known for his military and philosophical achievements, he also recognized the importance of infrastructure and public works in maintaining the stability of the empire. Public projects. Under Marcus Aurelius, significant infrastructure projects were initiated, particularly in Rome and the provinces. This included improvements to roads, aqueducts, and public buildings, which helped maintain the efficiency and functioning of the Roman Empire. Public works were important not only for the economic health of the empire, but also for maintaining Roman unity and identity. Economic development. Despite the challenges posed by the Marcomannic Wars and the plague, Marcus Aurelius worked to ensure that the empire's economy remained robust. He encouraged the development of agriculture, trade, and industry, which helped mitigate the impact of the external crises and the plague. His focus on economic recovery and stability provided a foundation for the empire's future growth. 12. Advocacy for education and intellectual growth. Marcus Aurelius was a patron of education and intellectual development, not just for the elite, but for Roman society as a whole, encouraging learning and philosophical inquiry. As a philosopher himself, Marcus Aurelius encouraged the study of philosophy and other intellectual pursuits. He valued education as a means of personal growth and moral development, particularly emphasizing the importance of studying ethics, logic, and the natural world. Philosophy for rulers and citizens. Marcus Aurelius believed that philosophy was essential not only for personal development, but also for good governance. He saw philosophy as a tool for rulers to become more virtuous and for citizens to lead moral and fulfilled lives. His meditations served as both a personal reflection and a broader philosophical guide to those in positions of leadership and those seeking wisdom. 13. Marcus Aurelius as a symbol of the philosopher king. Finally, one of Marcus Aurelius' most significant achievements is his embodiment of the concept of the philosopher king, a ruler who combines wisdom, virtue, and the pursuit of truth with political and military power. Marcus Aurelius, his achievements. Marcus Aurelius is remembered not only as a philosopher, but also as one of the most capable and admired emperors of ancient Rome. His reign, spanning from 161 to 180 CE, was marked by several significant achievements, both in his political and military leadership and his philosophical contributions. His accomplishments contributed to the stability of the Roman Empire, his reputation as a just ruler, and his lasting impact on Stoic philosophy. 1. Military leadership and the Marcomannic Wars. One of Marcus Aurelius' most significant achievements was his military leadership, particularly during the Marcomannic Wars, 166 to 180 CE. These wars were fought along the northern borders of the Roman Empire, primarily against the Germanic tribes, such as the Marcomanni, Quadi, and others. The conflict was sparked by invasions and raids on Roman territories by these tribes, which threatened the stability of the empire. Leadership during conflict. Despite being primarily a philosopher, Marcus Aurelius demonstrated considerable military skill and resilience as he personally led the Roman armies in these campaigns. The wars lasted for over a decade and were critical in ensuring the empire's territorial integrity. Marcus Aurelius' hands-on involvement in the conflict, as well as his ability to lead under difficult circumstances, earned him respect both as a general and as an emperor. Victory and defense. While the wars were grueling and costly, Marcus Aurelius' leadership was integral to Rome's ultimate success. His determination to protect the empire's borders and his commitment to the defense of Roman citizens were key elements in sustaining Roman power during this tumultuous period. Humanitarian approach to soldiers. Despite the ongoing wars, Marcus Aurelius displayed a more compassionate side to his leadership. He ensured that the soldiers were treated with respect, recognizing their hardships and offering them care and support during the long campaigns. 2. Contributions to Roman law and governance. Marcus Aurelius' reign was also marked by several contributions to Roman law, administration, and governance. He was known for his fairness, dedication to justice, and desire to promote the welfare of the people. Promotion of justice. Marcus Aurelius worked diligently to ensure that justice was applied equally throughout the empire. He was deeply concerned with the moral integrity of his rule and the legal system, often intervening personally in cases that involve significant moral questions or injustices. His commitment to fairness is evident in his personal belief that rulers should be as devoted to justice as their subjects are to obeying the law. Improving Roman law. Marcus Aurelius, along with his co-emperor Lucius Verus, worked on refining and codifying laws to improve the administration of justice in the empire. His reign saw an emphasis on the welfare of the Roman citizen and a focus on administrative reforms that would improve efficiency and fairness in Roman legal processes. Handling of the empire's finances. In addition to military and legal reforms, Marcus Aurelius also focused on the economic stability of the empire. He managed the empire's finances with prudence, ensuring that the Roman military remained well-funded despite the ongoing wars. While the empire faced challenges like famine, disease, and high military costs, Marcus Aurelius worked to maintain stability without overly taxing the population. 3. His philosophical writings, meditations. Perhaps the most enduring achievement of Marcus Aurelius is his work as a Stoic philosopher. His personal journal, later known as the Meditations, has become a seminal text in Stoic philosophy and a lasting legacy of his reign. The Meditations were not intended for publication. They were a series of private reflections that Marcus wrote to guide himself in living a virtuous life. Stoicism in practice. As a practitioner of Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the importance of virtue, self-discipline, and acceptance of the natural course of life. He meditated on how to live in accordance with nature, how to confront challenges with equanimity, and how to respond to the trials of life without losing one's moral compass. His meditations emphasize the importance of wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation, core values of Stoicism. Personal development and leadership. Through his writings, Marcus Aurelius showed that his philosophical beliefs were not abstract ideas, but practical principles that he applied in his daily life and rule as emperor. His ability to remain true to these Stoic values during difficult times, such as during the wars on Rome's northern frontiers or the devastating plagues, demonstrated the strength and resilience of Stoic thought. Timeless wisdom. The Meditations continue to be widely read and appreciated today, particularly for their teachings on resilience, mindfulness, and personal growth. Marcus' reflections on the importance of focusing on what is within one's control, maintaining inner peace in the face of adversity, and living a life of integrity have influenced not just philosophers but also leaders, athletes, and anyone seeking wisdom on how to live a virtuous and meaningful life. 4. His commitment to moral integrity and the welfare of the people. One of Marcus Aurelius' defining achievements was his commitment to moral integrity and the welfare of the people of Rome. Unlike some emperors who were primarily focused on their own power or luxury, Marcus Aurelius consistently put the well-being of the empire first. Governance with virtue. As a Stoic, Marcus Aurelius believed that rulers should be morally upright and should govern for the good of their people, not for personal gain. His emphasis on justice, self-control, and humility set him apart from many of his contemporaries. His rule was characterized by a deep sense of responsibility, as he saw himself as a servant of the people, entrusted with the care of the empire. Empathy for the poor. While the empire faced many challenges, including famines, disease, and economic instability, Marcus Aurelius showed empathy and compassion for the struggles of the poor and marginalized. He sought to ensure that resources were fairly distributed and that the most vulnerable in society were not neglected. 5. Peaceful transition of power. Marcus Aurelius ensured a peaceful transition of power during his reign, despite the challenges he faced. While his son Commodus eventually succeeded him, Marcus Aurelius made efforts to prepare his son for the responsibilities of leadership, although Commodus would later prove to be a less capable ruler. Teaching his heir, Marcus Aurelius wrote letters and reflections in an attempt to guide Commodus in becoming a virtuous and capable ruler. Unfortunately, Commodus' reign was marked by cruelty and mismanagement, but Marcus Aurelius' effort to raise his son with the values he held dear is a testament to his belief in the importance of wisdom and leadership. Legacy of stable governance. Despite the issues surrounding Commodus' reign, Marcus Aurelius' rule is often viewed as a model of wise governance, marked by a focus on justice, military defense, and moral integrity. His reign ensured that Rome remained relatively stable during a period of great external and internal challenges. 14. Handling internal struggles and challenges. Marcus Aurelius not only faced external enemies during his reign, but also had to manage various internal challenges, including political instability and the threat of rebellion. Dealing with political turmoil. Despite the empire's vast size and military challenges, Marcus Aurelius navigated political conflicts with wisdom and restraint. There were challenges to his rule, particularly from rival factions within the Roman Senate and other political elites. However, Marcus Aurelius was skilled at maintaining internal harmony, using diplomacy and careful decision-making to keep the peace. Religious and cultural tensions. The empire under Marcus Aurelius faced religious and cultural tensions, especially with the rise of Christianity. While his reign was marked by relative religious tolerance, there were instances of persecution, particularly against early Christians. However, Marcus Aurelius' personal philosophy emphasized the importance of tolerance for differing views, and there was an undercurrent of acceptance within the empire for a range of beliefs, though Christianity was still in its formative period. 15. Stoic ethics in the face of personal tragedy. Marcus Aurelius' personal life was full of hardships, yet he demonstrated extraordinary Stoic resilience and dedication to duty throughout these challenges. Family tragedies. Marcus Aurelius faced significant personal loss during his reign. His wife, Faustina the Younger, passed away in 175 CE. He also lost several of his children over the course of his life, which deeply affected him. However, despite these personal tragedies, Marcus Aurelius adhered to Stoic principles, using these experiences to reflect on the nature of life and death. His ability to face such personal losses with dignity and without losing his sense of purpose in ruling the empire demonstrated the depth of his Stoic character. Emotional control and reflection. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about how to handle emotions such as grief, anger, and frustration in his meditations. His Stoic approach was to maintain control over his emotions and to view challenges as opportunities for personal growth. This outlook not only served him in his role as emperor, but also allowed him to endure hardship without losing his moral compass or sense of responsibility. 16. Philosophical and moral education of the Roman elite. While Marcus Aurelius is widely regarded for his Stoic philosophy, his educational and moral philosophy had a far-reaching influence on the Roman elite and future rulers. Moral and ethical training for rulers. Marcus Aurelius was deeply concerned with the moral education of the Roman elite, particularly future leaders. His reign emphasized the importance of virtue, integrity, and self-discipline as central values for anyone in power. The emperor sought to create a class of well-rounded, ethically grounded leaders who would rule with both intelligence and compassion. Marcus Aurelius wrote personal letters and treatises not only for himself, but also for others who could benefit from his insights into leadership and morality. Legacy of intellectual thought. His deep philosophical convictions made Marcus Aurelius a model for intellectual and moral leadership. His efforts to encourage a more reflective, thoughtful approach to governance paved the way for future generations of philosophers, both within Rome and in the Western world more broadly. Many later leaders were inspired by his philosophy, and his writings remain an essential source for understanding the Stoic tradition. 17. Continued influence on later Roman emperors. Marcus Aurelius' reign and philosophy continued to influence many subsequent Roman emperors, shaping the trajectory of Roman imperial thought. Stoic influence on emperors. After Marcus Aurelius' death, his philosophical legacy continued to shape the mindset of later rulers. Though the Stoic ideals were not always fully embraced, later emperors like Septimius, Severus, and Hadrian were influenced by the Stoic outlook on leadership. In particular, the idea that rulers should act for the greater good of the people rather than out of personal ambition or desire for wealth remained a guiding principle for several generations of emperors. A model for political leaders. Even after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, Marcus Aurelius became a symbol of just and thoughtful leadership. His reign was seen as an ideal time in Roman history, and later political leaders, including Enlightenment thinkers, often cited Marcus Aurelius as a model of virtuous rule. Philosophers such as Montesquieu, Voltaire, and others regarded him as a model of philosophical and moral leadership. 18. His death and succession. Marcus Aurelius passed away in 180 CE, and his death marked the end of an era for the Roman Empire. His reign was often viewed as a period of relative peace and stability, despite the external and internal challenges faced by the empire. However, his death also signaled a shift in the empire's fortunes. The succession of Commodus. Marcus Aurelius' son, Commodus, succeeded him as emperor. Unfortunately, Commodus' reign was a sharp contrast to his father's, as he became known for his erratic behavior and authoritarian rule. His reign was marked by corruption, cruelty, and a general departure from the values that Marcus Aurelius had promoted. This created a stark shift in the empire's leadership, and many historians view the reign of Commodus as the beginning of the decline of the Roman Empire. A shift in Roman politics. The succession of Commodus, a period of misrule, was in many ways a bitter end to Marcus Aurelius' vision for the empire. However, even in the face of his son's shortcomings, Marcus Aurelius' philosophy and leadership style continued to resonate with later generations, reminding them of the values of justice, wisdom, and self-control. 19. Legacy in philosophy and Western thought. While Marcus Aurelius is best known for his role as an emperor, his contributions to philosophy were just as significant. The impact of the Meditations. The Meditations continues to be one of the most widely read philosophical texts in the world, especially in Western thought. His writings on Stoicism not only provide insight into his personal struggles, but also offer universal wisdom on managing adversity, maintaining moral integrity, and achieving inner peace. In modern times, Marcus Aurelius' Stoic writings have gained immense popularity, particularly among business leaders, politicians, and individuals seeking personal growth. Stoicism's revival in modern times. In the 21st century, Stoicism has experienced a resurgence, and Marcus Aurelius has become one of the central figures in this revival. His practical wisdom on self-discipline, emotional control, and resilience in the face of hardship resonates with contemporary readers. Stoic principles have become increasingly popular as self-help tools for navigating stress anxiety, and the challenges of modern life. Enduring philosophical influence. Beyond self-help, Marcus Aurelius' contributions to Stoic ethics and philosophy have impacted moral philosophy and political thought for centuries. His ideas on governance, leadership, and the relationship between the individual and the state continue to shape contemporary discourse on ethics, justice, and leadership. 20. A symbol of the philosopher-king ideal. Marcus Aurelius remains the quintessential example of the philosopher-king, as envisioned by Plato in his work The Republic. This ideal ruler is someone who possesses both wisdom and virtue, governing not out of self-interest but for the well-being of the people. Wisdom in rulership. Marcus Aurelius exemplified this ideal through his decision-making, which was always tempered by philosophical reflection. He ruled with an understanding that true power lies not in wealth or domination, but in the ability to cultivate personal virtue and lead with moral integrity. A model for ethical leadership. His reign is often cited as the model for rulers who govern by ethical principles. Marcus Aurelius did not act solely in the interest of power, but sought to uplift the moral and ethical standing of the empire. His legacy as a philosopher-king remains a high standard for ethical governance. Conclusion. The lasting impact of Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius stands as a towering figure in both Roman history and Western philosophy. His reign was marked by extraordinary achievements in military leadership, governance, and law. His commitment to Stoic philosophy and his ability to govern with wisdom and virtue made him not just a successful emperor, but also a revered figure for generations to come. His leadership in times of crisis, his contributions to public welfare, and his enduring philosophical reflections in the Meditations continue to inspire leaders, thinkers, and ordinary people alike. His legacy is a testament to the power of Stoic thought in practical life and the importance of ruling with integrity, justice, and wisdom. In every aspect of his life, Marcus Aurelius exemplified the Stoic ideals of resilience, virtue, and the pursuit of personal excellence, leaving a legacy that endures to this day. While Marcus Aurelius is widely regarded as one of Rome's greatest emperors, his reign was not without its challenges, and there were certain aspects of his rule that could be considered failures or shortcomings. Despite his many accomplishments, he faced significant difficulties both in his personal life and in his governance of the empire. Below are some of the key areas where Marcus Aurelius' leadership faced failures or struggles. 1. The decline of the Antonine dynasty. One of the most notable failures of Marcus Aurelius' reign was the succession of his son, Commodus, which marked the beginning of the end for the Antonine dynasty and the stability that had been a hallmark of the 5 good emperors. Commodus as successor. Despite being a philosopher-king who valued wisdom and virtue, Marcus Aurelius was unable to secure a capable successor. His son, Commodus, proved to be an ineffective and erratic ruler. Commodus was known for his cruelty, self-indulgence, and lack of interest in the welfare of the empire. His reign was marked by corruption, mismanagement, and the eventual weakening of Roman imperial authority. Failed dynastic succession. Marcus Aurelius may have hoped that his son would continue his legacy of thoughtful leadership, but Commodus' reign was one of decadence and misrule. Commodus' failure to live up to the standards set by his father led to the eventual decline of the imperial family and contributed to the instability that marked the later years of the Roman Empire. 2. The Marcomannic Wars and military strain. Although Marcus Aurelius is praised for his military leadership during the Marcomannic Wars, 166 to 180 CE, the prolonged conflict had negative consequences for the empire. Prolonged conflict. The Marcomannic Wars, fought against the Germanic tribes and other barbarian groups along the empire's northern frontier, became a drawn-out conflict. While Marcus Aurelius was successful in many battles, the wars stretched on for years, draining the empire's resources and manpower. The prolonged military effort, especially the mobilization of large numbers of Roman soldiers, weakened the empire's ability to defend its other borders or to handle internal economic challenges. Economic and social costs. The prolonged military campaigns and the war-related expenditures placed a significant strain on the empire's finances. Roman resources were diverted toward the defense of the northern frontier, and the economic consequences of the wars were felt across the empire. The economic strain was exacerbated by the Antonine Plague, which devastated the population and reduced the number of available soldiers and workers. Inability to fully resolve the conflict. While Marcus Aurelius succeeded in pushing back the invading tribes, he was unable to fully resolve the conflict or establish long-term peace. The Marcomannic Wars were only fully concluded after his death, and the underlying instability in the region persisted. 3. The Antonine Plague. The Antonine Plague, 165 to 180 CE, which likely resulted from the outbreak of smallpox, is one of the most significant public health crises in Roman history, and it posed a major challenge to Marcus Aurelius' leadership. Devastating impact on the empire. The plague spread throughout the empire, causing the deaths of possibly as many as 5 million people, including soldiers, civilians, and government officials. The effects were felt not only in terms of mortality, but also in terms of economic collapse, as labor shortages and disruptions in trade crippled the empire's economic foundations. Inability to prevent or cure the plague. Marcus Aurelius, despite his wisdom and dedication to public welfare, had little power to stem the tide of the plague. The Roman medical system at the time was ill-equipped to deal with such widespread health crises. Despite his efforts to maintain stability in the empire and care for the sick, the impact of the plague was beyond his control, and the plague undoubtedly contributed to weakening the empire during his reign. 4. The persecution of Christians. While Marcus Aurelius is often regarded as a ruler who upheld Stoic principles of tolerance, his reign still saw the continuation of religious persecution, particularly against Christians. Although not as widespread as under later emperors, the persecution of Christians under Marcus Aurelius represents a failure in terms of religious tolerance. Persecution of Christians. The Meditations reflect Marcus Aurelius' philosophical emphasis on tolerance and rational thought, but his reign still saw localized instances of Christian persecution. Christians, particularly in the eastern provinces, faced arrest, torture, and execution for their beliefs. It is believed that under Marcus Aurelius, the Senate issued decrees that led to these persecutions. Although he was not personally responsible for the violence, as an emperor, Marcus Aurelius failed to prevent these actions. Religious intolerance. This contradiction between the emperor's philosophical principles and the state-sanctioned religious intolerance highlights the limits of his governance in terms of religious freedom. His actions also contributed to the later tension between Christianity and the Roman state, which would escalate in the following centuries. 5. Failure to resolve the succession crisis. While Marcus Aurelius tried to ensure a smooth succession, the failure to groom a competent heir in Commodus underscores a significant flaw in his leadership. Failure in preparing Commodus. Marcus Aurelius likely believed that he could shape his son into a ruler worthy of the empire. However, Commodus was not prepared for the responsibility of leadership. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively in his Meditations about his desire to lead by example, but his philosophical lessons did not take root in his son. This failure to prepare Commodus for rule contributed to the instability that followed Marcus Aurelius' death. Dynastic weakness. Marcus Aurelius was part of the Antonine dynasty, which had long been praised for its strong, wise emperors. However, the succession of an incompetent son, especially one who was more interested in personal indulgence than statecraft, revealed the weakness of relying on a dynastic succession model. The weakness of the Roman imperial system in this regard would be exposed in the coming centuries, contributing to political instability and eventual collapse. 6. Limited influence over the Senate and Senate-focused governance. While Marcus Aurelius did attempt to collaborate with the Senate and maintain a system of shared power, his reign saw continued power struggles with the Senate and the elite governing class. Strained relations with the Senate. The Senate, particularly during the reign of Marcus Aurelius, was still a powerful body, and there were frequent tensions between the emperor and the Senate. Marcus Aurelius, in his efforts to maintain stability, did not always get along with the Senate, and the strained relations between the imperial office and the Senate undermined the effectiveness of governance. Authoritarianism under the surface. Although Marcus Aurelius is often seen as a just and virtuous ruler, There were times when he exercised absolute power in ways that curtailed the Senate's autonomy. Some historians argue that Marcus Aurelius was forced to become more authoritarian during the latter part of his reign, particularly due to the strain of the Marcomannic Wars and the plague. His decisions often bypassed the Senate, which led to some criticisms about his management of political affairs. 7. Economic challenges and inflation. Despite Marcus Aurelius' efforts to keep the Roman Empire stable, his reign faced serious economic challenges, particularly toward the end of his rule. These economic troubles were exacerbated by his military expenditures and the economic toll of the Antonine Plague. Inflation and debasement of currency. The costs of the Marcomannic Wars and the military campaigns, combined with the devastating effects of the plague on the workforce, led to inflation and the devaluation of Roman currency. The debasement of the denarius, which was a consequence of minting coins with less silver content, eroded public trust in the economy. Economic instability. While Marcus Aurelius was focused on maintaining the empire's territorial integrity and ensuring the loyalty of his military forces, these priorities led to neglecting the broader economic situation. Economic instability, resulting in higher taxes and inflation, contributed to social unrest. This instability would affect the empire in the years to come, and the later emperors would struggle with similar challenges. 8. Lack of lasting solutions for border security. While Marcus Aurelius managed to hold the empire's borders against invading tribes, his efforts failed to create lasting peace along these borders. Temporary military successes. The victories of the Marcomannic Wars provided temporary relief from the threats posed by barbarian tribes. However, there were no lasting solutions that would ensure the long-term security of the Roman frontiers. The same tribes and other groups would continue to challenge the Roman Empire in the following decades, indicating that Marcus Aurelius' military efforts were not enough to completely secure the empire's borders. Military overstretch. The constant need to deploy military resources to protect the empire's borders stretched the Roman military thin. With the empire facing multiple threats at once, Marcus Aurelius was unable to fully secure every frontier, and this strain on military resources would later contribute to the collapse of the Roman Empire. 9. The lack of effective succession planning. While Marcus Aurelius is often lauded for his intellectual depth and stoic virtues, one of his most glaring failures was his inability to ensure a smooth and effective succession. As previously mentioned, the selection of Commodus as his successor created a rift in the stability of the Roman Empire and contributed to its eventual decline. Commodus' incompetence. Although Marcus Aurelius clearly sought to mentor and prepare his son, Commodus, to rule, Commodus' reign proved disastrous. Commodus' behavior, marked by indulgence, cruelty, and a lack of philosophical grounding, was a sharp contrast to the principled leadership of his father. Marcus Aurelius' failure to recognize or remedy his son's shortcomings resulted in a ruler who lacked the ability to maintain the integrity of the empire. Commodus' reign was largely characterized by poor governance, financial instability, and increasing corruption. The failure of dynastic rule. Marcus Aurelius had hoped that his son would carry forward the legacy of his rule, but this dynastic system of succession ultimately failed. While some previous emperors had seen success with a strong imperial family, such as Hadrian and Antoninus Pius, Marcus Aurelius' reign highlighted the inherent weakness in relying solely on bloodlines to determine leadership. This succession crisis undermined the Roman imperial system and contributed to the instability of the empire in the following decades. After Commodus' reign, Rome saw a rapid turnover of emperors, leading to a period of political chaos known as the Year of the Five Emperors, 193 CE. Lack of broader reforms for succession. Though Marcus Aurelius was a Stoic philosopher, his belief in the power of individual virtue did not extend into a more structured reform of imperial succession. A more defined, institutionalized system for selecting emperors, one based on merit and not just familial ties, may have provided a more stable succession and reduced the risks of having a poor leader succeed him. 10. Overextension of military resources. While Marcus Aurelius is admired for his military leadership, his prolonged involvement in the Marcomannic Wars and the decision to rely heavily on the military had several negative consequences. Prolonged military campaigns. The Marcomannic Wars, which spanned much of his reign, were a significant drain on Roman resources, and their resolution was far from permanent. Although the empire was able to repel the invading Germanic tribes, the wars were costly in terms of manpower and finances. Prolonged military campaigns put immense strain on the Roman economy and military, weakening the empire's ability to defend other borders and handle internal problems. The ongoing warfare also hampered the empire's capacity to focus on other pressing domestic issues, such as economic management and governance. Financial strain. The expenses associated with these military campaigns placed significant financial pressure on the Roman state. To fund the wars, Marcus Aurelius had to rely on heavy taxation and debasing the currency, which led to inflation and diminished trust in Roman monetary systems. The lack of a clear and lasting victory in these campaigns compounded the economic difficulties, resulting in long-term negative consequences for Rome. Decline of Roman military effectiveness. The constant demand on the Roman legions during these wars also affected their effectiveness. Over time, the quality of the Roman military began to decline, with soldiers often distracted by the needs of constant warfare. The toll on the military also contributed to the gradual erosion of discipline and cohesion within the ranks, which would become more evident in the following centuries as Rome's military became increasingly unreliable. 11. Mismanagement of the plague. The Antonine Plague, 165 to 180 CE, devastated the Roman Empire, killing millions of people, including many soldiers, and causing a significant decline in the empire's economic and social structures. Though Marcus Aurelius was emperor during the height of this plague, his management of the crisis can be seen as inadequate. Inability to prevent the plague. Like many other ancient rulers, Marcus Aurelius had no real means of preventing or combating the plague. The Roman medical infrastructure was rudimentary at best, and the emperor had few tools at his disposal to stop the spread of the disease. His inability to protect the empire from such a widespread disaster undermined his leadership. Lack of effective relief measures. While Marcus Aurelius showed some level of empathy and concern for the suffering caused by the plague, there were no large-scale, effective public health responses to the crisis. His reign did not see the implementation of measures such as quarantine, sanitary measures, or coordinated medical interventions that might have mitigated the damage. This failure to address the social and health crisis adequately left the empire vulnerable to further weakening. Prolonged economic disruption. The plague's impact on the Roman economy was profound, and Marcus Aurelius' response did not sufficiently stabilize the economic downturn. With widespread deaths among the population, including a significant portion of the workforce and the military, economic activity ground to a halt. This exacerbated the already existing economic problems caused by the military campaigns, and the empire struggled to recover. 12. Limited reforms in governance and administrative structures. While Marcus Aurelius was an intelligent and capable ruler, his reign failed to bring about significant administrative reforms that could have secured the long-term health of the Roman Empire. Centralization of power. Despite his philosophical convictions, Marcus Aurelius did not address the growing centralization of power in the emperor's hands. The imperial bureaucracy and the emperor's personal control over key decisions became a hallmark of Roman governance during his reign. This centralization, though perhaps necessary for his time, contributed to the weakening of Roman institutions and the Senate. The inability to distribute power more equitably among Roman institutions led to growing dissatisfaction with the imperial system in the years that followed. Failure to address corruption. While Marcus Aurelius sought to rule justly and by Stoic principles, his reign was not free of corruption, particularly within the military and provincial administration. Although the emperor was a proponent of virtue and good governance, corruption persisted in the empire. He made efforts to curb this problem, but his reign saw little institutional change that would systematically address the causes of corruption. This failure allowed for inefficiency and mismanagement within the Roman bureaucracy to persist, which ultimately weakened the empire's administrative capacity. Lack of long-term institutional reform. Although he was committed to personal virtue and ethical leadership, Marcus Aurelius did not pursue deep institutional reforms that could have stabilized the empire. The Roman government continued to rely heavily on the traditional structures of imperial authority, which ultimately became unsustainable. Future emperors would struggle with an overburdened system that failed to evolve with the changing needs of the empire. 13. Insufficient focus on domestic social issues. While Marcus Aurelius is often remembered for his military campaigns and philosophical writings, his reign did not address many of the internal social issues that plagued the empire. Rural poverty and social unrest. The Roman Empire during Marcus Aurelius' time had a large gap between the wealthy elites and the impoverished lower classes, particularly in rural areas. While the emperor was often concerned with the philosophical implications of governance, his reign did not significantly address the needs of the working poor. Rural poverty, agricultural decline, and social unrest continued to simmer, and these issues were aggravated by the disruptions caused by the wars and the plague. Slave and labor conditions. The vast use of slaves in the Roman economy created social inequalities that were not addressed during Marcus Aurelius' reign. Slaves had few rights, and their condition continued to deteriorate in the face of economic difficulties. Though Marcus Aurelius was a proponent of justice and virtue, his rule did not fundamentally challenge the structure of Roman slavery, nor did he institute reforms to improve the lives of the lower classes or slaves. Urban decay. In the major urban centers of the empire, including Rome, there was a growing disconnect between the ruling elite and the common people. Marcus Aurelius' reign did not adequately address the increasing difficulties faced by city dwellers, who experienced high taxes, food shortages, and deteriorating living conditions. Although the emperor's philosophical stance was one of compassion and care for others, the material needs of the common populace were largely ignored. Conclusion. The incomplete legacy of Marcus Aurelius. Though Marcus Aurelius is hailed as one of the greatest emperors of Rome, his reign was not free from failure. The legacy of his leadership must also contend with the inherent limitations of his reign. The failure to secure a competent successor, the economic and military strain caused by the Marcomannic Wars, the inability to resolve the public health crisis of the Antonine Plague, and the lack of comprehensive reforms to address systemic corruption and social inequality. These failures, particularly the consequences of Commodus' reign, contributed to the eventual instability of the Roman Empire. Nevertheless, Marcus Aurelius' philosophical reflections in his Meditations remain a testament to his personal strength and resilience in the face of adversity. While his reign may not have solved all the problems that confronted the Roman Empire, his commitment to Stoic principles offers a model for leadership that transcends his time. His failures serve as reminders of the challenges of ruling a vast empire and the imperfections of even the most virtuous of leaders.